Hey, welcome to Two Seals in a Wall. Don't look away. Don't look away. Don't look away.
All right. Start it. Oh, run it back.
Don't fuck it up.
Fucking start over.
Hey, welcome to Two Seals and a Walrus. I am your co-host, Sean Webb. To my right, as always, we have Navy SEAL Ben Johnson, who is a sniper and a medic in the military. And then we also have Doug Moulton, who is a sniper for the United States Navy SEALs. And this is a show where we just have awesome shit that we talk about most of the time. A lot of times we bring in guests. A lot of times we talk about serious stuff connected with the human mind, human consciousness, how to live a better life, etc. Today we're going to take a day off. And discuss, just, catch up and hang out and have a discussion and, I don't know, talk about some fun shit. Doug was not present for one of our shows.
Oh, yeah.
Where Ben and I sat and had a pretty serious conversation about the headlines that have been occurring, drug use in the United States Navy SEALs, etc. Were you able to watch that, sir?
Yes.
And I'm sure people might be interested in your thoughts of our discussion because you weren't here, although I did interject a couple of your quotes.
Yeah.
Good answer, Steve.
It's I did interject that, you two of the points that you made previously that were, I thought...
9/11, next question.
9/11.
Yeah, no,
But,
so
what did you think about that show that we did with Ben on drug use in the United States Navy SEALs and the potential for, maybe they should need to change, our basically ruining, spoiler alert, the end of that episode, we kind of suggested that the science leads us to conclude that maybe the United States military should implement psychedelics and psychedelic assisted therapies and that kind of stuff. And I don't know, what did you think about that whole discussion that we had that you weren't here for?
So, I mean, it's obviously a very dynamic conversation. And I've stated at least one opinion on this before, too, is I think it would be beneficial in the long run to implement therapeutic psychedelic use. I think a couple things would happen. One, you'd lose some guys.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is you'd make guys that stay in way fucking healthier.
Yeah.
You really draw some
think
longevity out of it, too.
It's not about getting people to do these things so they think everything's sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and everyone leaves the military. I mean, that's not life.
Yeah.
I think you'd maybe get a small percentage of guys that might be like, hey, this may not be for me. Great. You know what? You probably didn't want them in for 20 years anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
But the guys that are going to stay in anyways, they're going to be I would speculate they would be way healthier.
Yeah.
Which is going to lead to like so many compounding benefits.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, a healthier operative to me is, a more effective operator. Not just, after the fact. Like, you've got the whole problem of, sending these guys off to do amazing things and very stressful things. And, you have stress buildup, yada, yada, yada. But then you have to deal with their medical issues after the fact. But here's the thing that I learned about dealing with some folks. Like, there's this lady who read one of the books that I wrote, and she had a revelation about her own alcoholism, where it wasn't a you just get to Friday and you want to go out and have a bender and yada yada yada. It was the stress builds up over time, like during the week, like the stress from Tuesday at 4:00 in the afternoon that you don't fucking deal with, that you can't deal with at the moment, then all of a sudden becomes that buildup that has to be released Friday, and all of a sudden you can't remember what happened the whole weekend until Monday.
Yeah, I I drink quite a bit on active duty, but it's also a culture of it too. Part of that is, I think, just an ability or a mechanism for down regulation. So, don't pretend that, don't ask for abnormal abilities of people and then expect normal standards for people.
Yeah.
Accept it for what it is, evaluate the situation, be like, you know what, maybe I'll backtrack a little. I think the military severely minimizes, just maybe because they haven't realized it enough, but they severely minimize the necessity for decompression and downregulation post-deployment.
Right.
For men and women in super high stress situations.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to end up, and the thing is too, like, from the military perspective, you're going to save a ton of money by making people healthier.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a us or them argument. This is, hey, how do we make individuals better individuals
Yeah.
for things they want to do?
Yeah. Was it I think I saw a statistic somewhere that said many of the returning folks who came back from deployment, I mean, just regular, not just special forces, but just regular veterans, were dealing with issues that qualified them for disability. I mean, how much money are you paying?
Exactly.
I mean, it's not just an issue of money, right? It's like, oh, it would be great if we didn't have to pay this out because they already.
But knowing your audience, hey VA, this avenue might save you a ton of money.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
this isn't a
By solving a lot of problems, by
yes,
the way,
yeah.
right? Not just saying, oh, this is going to
this
allow
isn't a
you to
belief
cut off.
argument. This
Right.
is a hey, let's explore this scientific avenue
Yeah.
and see what validity exists.
Yeah. I see these shows that talk about the science of, mind-altering substances, psychedelics, and things like that, and how they're all having positive outcomes in these people's lives. And for us not to acknowledge that as a people and as a nation and as organizations that serve that nation, et cetera, I think it's a little short-sighted. I don't know, just me. But I wanted to get your take on it because I saw this, I was rewatching Shane Moss's documentary on psychedelics on Netflix, and I was like, man, that's it just resurfaces in my mind how much benefit it would be to the folks who kind of need that stuff. There's been a lot of amazing stuff. I've been hooked on Netflix
On
a lot.
psychedelics?
I've been hooked on psychedelics for a lot lately. No, I've been hooked on Netflix a lot. Like I've been finding a whole bunch of cool shit to watch. What do you guys think about like binge watching? Because I've been watching shows like from start to finish, like the whole series of a whole season, and I'm wondering, like, because I grew up in the days of, if you watch a show, it's appointment TV. You gotta get to a TV Tuesday at 8:00 to see the next episode, and if you miss it, you're fucked.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
All 3 channels.
Right. And so and I literally had 3 channels until they introduced 2 more, one which was like a PTL TV, and the other one was PBS. But yeah, it's like those days are gone, and I'm with the fact that it's really cool that you can like binge watch the whole season of something. Like I watched this show Rusty Cars, which was amazing, or something like that.
Euphemism?
No, they take old beat up cars and they customize them and make them amazing vehicles. And I watched the whole fucking season, and it's like now I'm jonesing for more episodes, and I got to wait like a year and a half to see the next set of episodes. Like HBO's kind of in that they're still an appointment TV. They're delivering online, but it's like only on Sunday nights. Sunday nights is owned by HBO now with all their episodes and shit.
And I wasted so many years of my life waiting for Game of Thrones to come to fruition.
Yeah.
That was the most limp dick ending of all time.
Oh,
So
I know.
HBO's out.
Yeah.
I will say, the point I think behind the ending, I totally agree with that. There could, I wish people would actually take this away. I know it's like, oh look, it's a fucking show and dragon, shut the fuck up. But no. The fact that they realize there can never be a single person that knows what's best
For
is
everyone,
so
yeah.
important to realize, because it's so dangerous to think that a single person can know what's best. I mean, the fact that they were like, hey, there needs to be a collective. The collective is going to be wrong sometimes, but it's okay because it's better than a single entity.
Right.
I was like, episodes suck, bad storytelling, horrible acting, this one episode, but great point right there.
But yeah, everybody except the American president, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's
that
another-
guy.
Which one? All of them?
All right. Here's here's hold
What do you
on.
mean that
here's
guy?
Here's my
all
theory.
of those guys.
Here's my theory of what's going on
Sounds
with
kind of
that.
sexist, but all right.
It's only been guys, except for whatever. I don't
So
know.
the guy
That identifies guys.
the guy who's a little bit of a loose cannon
Obama.
got into office, and the guy who's basically taken an authoritarian position on things where it's my way or the highway. We can all agree that that's his position, whether he's right or wrong on things. And I think he's doing some stuff that's positive, although it's a lot of the stuff's negative. But he's got authoritarian guy who says my way or the highway. In Washington, there's a book of the shit that people have done that could ruin careers. And I think he asked for that, got a hold of it, and I think that's why a lot of folks have kind of fallen into line of we're not going to challenge this guy on because he will fucking release it. Like he doesn't care that he will destroy the fucking party that got him
the
there.
most dangerous person in the world is the one that has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Or at least has the perspective that they have nothing to lose.
And you know what clued me off to that thought? And I have no basis, I have no inside information that this is true or whatever, but you know who backed out, who was a very staunch opponent of Donald Trump and then all of a sudden became a very staunch supporter of Donald Trump overnight, literally, and then backed out of politics.
Amy Schumer?
Melania?
Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House when the Republicans had
He
the
backed out?
Yeah, he basically retired, said he needed to spend more time with his family. He's in short line for the presidency when he does this, and yet he's opposing the president while he's running. The president reaches office, he's a super supporter of the president, and then all of a sudden steps down and retires from office when he is on the short list of the next young Republican presidency who could follow up, and he says, I'm out.
I mean, you couldn't pay me enough to do that.
No, you couldn't pay me enough to be president.
Maybe he
either.
hit his threshold.
He could.
Or maybe there is some nefarious dirt behind it, but
Yeah.
both are probably equally true.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Netflix. Sorry, HBO has been owning this.
Back to Netflix. HBO.
No, but
Back to more linear thought
No.
by Sean.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, but here's the thing: appointment television. HBO is like a stalwart trying to hold out that hey, Sunday night's our night to come see all of our amazing shows.
Yeah, they more dragons, but
Yeah, but but now it's like appointment TV's going away. Now you can watch the whole series of something, like a whole season of something, in one night or a couple of days or a few days or less than a week or whatever. Not like it used to be where you had to show up every week for the advertisers. And it's like, I don't know if I'm still on the fence of whether or not that's a good thing for me, because it's like I go through a whole season. Like one of the shows that I like that we talked about previously was Lost in Space. I saw Lost in Space, the original episodes, years ago when they were on reruns on TV, and I thought they were great.
back when sci-fi was good.
Yeah, back when sci-fi was decent and just didn't have the technology to do it.
Yeah.
Where they cared about interesting storylines and serials and whatnot. But I do think that that's an amazing show. But I watched the whole series in like a week, and now it's like so old that when it comes around again, I'm almost going to have to watch it
Just kind of
again.
over it.
Yeah, just to remember, what it was that I watched and what the storyline was and yada yada yada. And I don't know. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think? Do you like binge watching stuff?
I still watch Twilight Zone.
The old Twilight Zones?
Yeah.
Yeah, those
On
are
Hulu.
good.
With Casey Kasem?
My voice is like audible chocolate.
Casey Kasem?
Yeah, Casey Kasem.
Yeah. Is that what I'm thinking of?
I don't know. It's black
Casey
and white.
Kasem did the weekly top 40.
Yeah, he was the radio DJ.
Who was the narrator of that? Twilight Zone. I thought it was the same guy.
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Who was the... You guys keep talking.
It's the guy that lives at the top of the Tower of Terror in MGM Studios.
I can't remember the guy's name.
No, that's Walt Disney.
Look it up on your phone
No,
so that we don't drive the autistic people in the audience crazy.
Mine.
Or the people shouting it at their top of their lungs. They're like, you idiots. I love that music forever, by the way. But what do you guys think about serial TV?
Rod Serling.
Rod Serling, right. What do you guys think about the TV being able to grab a whole series, a whole episode, a whole season in a week?
It's awesome because I hate cable. It's a sham. It's going away. It's gonna die. So anything that hurts that and helps the consumer,
Boom.
I'm pro.
Yeah, I'm totally chill with people like giving flesh-eating bacteria to all cable company employees.
I have had, I kid you not, probably 36 phone calls from my cable company because I just have Wi-Fi and they keep trying to upsell me to cable. I've had 36 calls in the last 2 months. 36 calls.
No, they actually come to my house.
36.
Jeez, are you kidding me?
No, they walk to my house. I get 2 every week. They walk to my house and they've literally upsold us to out of annoyance. Like it's more of a
Mine's Spectrum.
pest.
Mine's Spectrum, by the way. I'm trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
If you have Spectrum, get rid of it.
We've literally
Also,
tried
Spectrum,
to get
sponsor us.
all of the data available, and we hit 90% of our data without using the internet much on the first week of our internet cycle. And we supposedly have unlimited.
Yeah, what's up with
And fiber.
limited, unlimited data? That's bullshit right there.
It's a bunch of
Redefining words.
it's a bunch of pieces of shit of the cable companies.
All natural. It's like when all natural used to mean all natural, and now it's like no,
you
no.
know what else is all natural? Lead. So you people need to stop complaining about
Exactly.
dying from acute lead poisoning.
All the Roman Empire over here.
Have you guys seen Lost in Space? What do you guys think about that show?
I thought it was a great story, and I think it was really well told. That I think I'm a closet movie critic or show critic.
Yeah.
And what always kills me is when they don't do character development. And Lost in Space does character development really well.
Yeah.
You buy into the characters, how they got to their mental states, their physical location. They build those stories up, and they keep adding to them.
Yeah.
For me, that's what sucks me into a show.
Yeah.
Character development.
I really like what they did with the robot in introducing him as an extraterrestrial life
Man,
form.
I bet that was hard to figure out, but they did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they actually gave like a character with absolutely no voice and no like there's very little interaction, the very little the robot says. Gave him a lot of personality to a certain extent.
Very anthropomorphized.
Get out of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was kind of cool. Did you guys see the Altered Carbon stuff on Netflix?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen a single episode, but I've heard it's a show.
That chick that's the main character shows her tits in one of the Riddick movies.
What movie?
One of the Riddick movies, like Pitch Black or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
Chronicles of Riddick. I don't know.
I think you're thinking of Triple X.
No, that was Ice Cube.
Oh, no. Fast and the Furious.
No, that was
Are you thinking of Taken?
what's that Irish fireball guy?
Green Lantern?
Irish car bomb. Paul Walker.
See what you did there.
Paul Driver.
Listen, I respect Paul Walker a lot. I don't like that joke.
The only thing that I don't like about Altered Carbon is the science of having a stack that holds your personality and your memories and your everything that they put it in the bottom of your neck.
Wait, what's the premise?
All right, so Altered Carbon is the fact that is this show about it's way off into the future, but it's about having the ability to have a body that your personality and all of your life's memories and whatnot is stored inside a stack of chips or whatever it is that they put in the base of your neck. And when you implant it into a new body, wherever you get the body from, it is your old self engaged in an activity in a new body. And that's the thing that holds your consciousness. And the
So rich people can keep living? Is that the...
yeah, so rich
Okay.
people can keep living, and ultimately, if that thing gets destroyed, and there is a, law enforcement act of destroying that, if you're an asshole, when that gets destroyed, then that is the end of your existence. Otherwise, you can keep trading up to new bodies, and there's a whole, thing associated with that. Connected, I don't know, whatever. I didn't like the science of it because that's not how memory works. It's not how neuroscience works.
I was gonna say, could you pull that out and have somebody make an exact copy, like you would burning a CD,
Well, that's
and
one of
then put it into two bodies
Yeah.
and make an army of yourselves that was tethered, so
that-
you would have like a hive mind?
Yeah, well, that's what one of the bad guys was doing, right? He had a
I stopped watching it,
yeah.
so I don't know.
I lost interest in it a while back.
But, I mean, in the words of Jeff Goldblum,
Don't go
Life-
to that telepod.
life will find a way.
True.
Yeah.
Life will find a way. So, what have you guys watched lately that you've loved?
Besides Bob Burgers and Rick and
And
Morty.
Rick and Morty, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked. I saw what you did there.
Chernobyl. Chernobyl was amazing.
Chernobyl was amazing.
Man, such a well-told story. I was constantly on my computer while watching that to see how much was factual,
Yeah.
and it scared the shit out of me.
How much was factual?
Most of it.
Yeah.
I knew it was a really messed up story. I knew some of it, but to hear the nuances and then to visualize it in the story they tell, and then to look it up, be like, oh yeah, there were divers that dove into this with the Russian leader saying, hey, by the way, you're gonna die within a couple hours of this.
Yeah.
But you're probably gonna save half the hemisphere. Like, well, how are we not memorializing those guys? I don't care if they're Russian. Like,
Yeah.
they probably they fucked it up, but they still did some shit.
Yeah.
was
Those are-
amazing.
those guys are heroes.
God,
You know,
there's so
what's-
many untold heroes like that. It kills me.
Yeah. You know what sucks is that we've got another one happening live, and they can't do anything about it. Fukushima.
That's still going on.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They haven't sealed that stuff up, and now
didn't
just
know that.
recently, just recently, because it's all underwater, underground, and
Are they seeing some more UFOs in the area?
no.
You know those
no.
stories?
Oh yeah, hold on. We'll talk about
Okay,
the Bob
yeah, yeah.
Lazar thing that I just saw recently, and the unacknowledged documentary. I love that because I watched that just recently. But no, Fukushima is still leaking, and the problem is the seawater has access to it, and now 100% of the fish that they've caught in the Pacific Ocean have traces of Fukushima in them now because it's spread across the ocean and is going to continue to do so because they can't seal the sucker up. So yeah, it's interesting, scary stuff. But I agree with you. Those heroes from Russia, they need to be lauded, regardless of what their nationalism was.
Yeah, we need a global group to identify heroes. I think I don't know if there is one, but
No.
people like that.
The UN.
No, a group that does stuff, like actually does stuff.
Sorry, my bad.
And tell those stories.
But speaking of the UFOs, have they been
Yeah.
reporting UFOs at Fukushima? Have they really?
Yeah, since
That makes a lot of
since
sense.
since the catalyst.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense because if you listen to the stories like the unacknowledged documentary that what's his face put out, Greer, right? So he's talking about he actually has like top level brass who had top secret clearances and whatnot, and who were in charge of the nuclear bases and whatnot back in the 50s and 60s, telling the stories of UFOs coming to the front gate of the base and having the guy at the front gate freak out and call high command and say there's something floating outside the front gate. And he has a direct conversation with the top brass who's in charge, the CO's in charge of the base, and he's like, well, what's it doing? He's like, well, it's just hovering. And then all of a sudden he
Was
gets
this the U.S. base in the U.K.?
No, this was the U.S. base in Montana.
Oh, a different story.
It's a right.
It's crazy that there's more than one.
You're thinking
Yeah.
about the one that landed in the woods with the.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they started shutting down the nuclear silos, which are, ironically, siloed, that don't have connection, don't have, it's like not like you could shut down one and then all of a sudden it becomes a chain event. They shut down
There's
individual silos one at a time.
Literal Faraday cages, which no part of the electromagnetic spectrum is supposed to get to and from.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be remote.
Yeah. And so you have Greer, who puts this documentary together, who actually gets the guy who's the CO say, yeah, this happened. I was on the phone. I was in my bed at 2:00 in the morning when I got the call, and the UFO is floating outside the gate, shutting down the missile silos one by one, which there's no way that any human would be able to do that without, specific orders and specific, separate teams being able to do it, et cetera. And they were just losing power. They were going inoperative, which freaked everybody out because, that's one of the biggest national defense mechanisms that we had back in the 50s and 60s, and this UFO is shutting nuclear missiles down. And then it left, and then they all came back up. And then the other scuttlebutt is that all of the nuclear missiles that we fired into space have been destroyed by
Oh, I didn't know this part of the story.
unidentified flying objects. And yeah, I mean, this, it's all hearsay, and you never know if any of it's true or that type of thing. But a lot of this stuff fits that if Fukushima is leaking nuclear energy at this point, that
Yeah, apparently there's been a high number of or what's the new term? Unidentified aerial phenomenon?
UAVs,
UAPs. Unidentified aerial phenomenon is the new DoD term. New as in like 10 years ago. But apparently there's been a high number of reports since it happened.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It does.
It's weird that they could shut down a bazillion nuclear missile silos independently and in rapid succession, but they can't figure out a leak.
Yeah. Well, it makes you wonder because, I mean, there is a great deal of science that is connected with nuclear power and non-local quantum field energy. And when you're blowing things up with nuclear energy, you could be reaching out into other worlds or other people or consciousness itself or, whatever, and affecting a large number of things that we don't yet understand that, we're playing with
Yeah, it's
matches.
creating fluxes in all kinds of fields.
Right. And so it would make sense for a technology or a species that understood that stuff much better to be interested in, hey, don't play with the matches, kids.
But I like the Bob Lazar example of if you had a man-packed thermonuclear weapon and you brought it back to the 1800s and gave it to the top scientists, they'd all kill themselves.
Yeah, they'd open it up, and they'd die, and then
Yeah.
the people would come in, check on them, would die,
Yep.
and they wouldn't understand why, and then
Yeah.
they'd call it magic or black magic,
Yeah.
and then they'd go bury it in a hole somewhere. right?
And then Matt
Yeah,
Damon
yeah.
would dig it up and use it to
Matt
heat his rover up, you know.
Matt Damon would cook some potatoes with it.
Bat Damon.
You like them apples?
But I thought, I mean, you know, you make fun of the documentary of Greer and all his UFO half conspiracy, half real, you know, unexplained phenomena, and then you have on top of that the Bob Lazar story, who is really
That and the
compelling.
recent release, the Joe Rogan interview with Commander Fravor, who was I think one of the pilots during the famous Tic Tac.
I haven't watched that
Yeah,
yet.
I haven't.
I'm really interested. It just came out like yesterday.
Yeah, 1 or 2 days ago.
I am really interested in seeing that.
Oh yeah,
That's gonna be a good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Bob Lazar documentary was pretty good.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
The documentarian, what's his name? Jeremy Corbell.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he took a really bad page out of like a spooky book novel and tried to throw it in. But yeah, I mean, decent overall, but like I don't know, he tried to make it more creepy. It's a crazy story as it is. You don't
Yeah.
have to like add some weird graphics.
Right.
I think he's a marketer though too. You know, I mean, he wanted
Yeah,
to
but
make
he
a
doesn't
film.
know his audience.
You know, he doesn't. He wanted to make a film that was amazing and great and told Bob's story, which is an amazing story by itself.
But like Bob's story can tell itself. That's the thing.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
And so he kind of positioned himself. First of all, he had interest in doing this movie because he's probably, you know, he just wants to do
Yeah.
stuff about UFOs. But then he positioned himself as, I was a skeptic at first. I don't know if I believe that bullshit.
Even though he'd done a ton of documentaries previously on like Skinwalker Ranch, some other CIA stuff. I'm not like dismissing him. I'm just saying his flavor of documentary sucks.
Yeah.
But the Bob Lazar documentary, whoever's listening, whoever that may be, worth a fucking listen.
Yes.
Because even if 5% of what that guy says is true, we gotta wake up.
Yeah.
There's something going on.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, there are certainly you know, I got to say, you know, one of the things that he talked about in the documentary.
What's
now
wrong
we're
with
calling
you
it
two?
documentary.
How do you say it?
Documentary.
Words are hard. Words are hard.
The element 115 is a nictogen. And
what?
it's a nictogen. All right, it's a
I thought it was Moscovium.
It is moscovium.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called moscovium. It used to be called unpentium, and then they were
Well,
going to go.
we could get into the conversation of how the fact that it got renamed, when it got renamed, how the naming process of elements goes. Because if you actually follow the standard rule of how naming an element goes, it brings up a lot of questions.
Yes, and so let's talk about that for a second, just to bring people up to speed. Okay, so back in 1989, when Bob Lazar came public and said, "I'm a physicist working
30
on,"
years ago?
yeah, 89.
30 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years ago. So he came out and said, "I'm a physicist working on reverse engineering alien spacecraft that we don't have the technology to build, so this isn't like seized from somebody else. I'm reverse engineering this spacecraft. We're working with this element 115, which, by the way, didn't exist on the periodic table back when he was talking about it. And so he basically said, we're working with element 115, and it influences gravity, which is a hugely powerful
And we just found
field.
out in 2014 or
Yeah.
within the last 8 years, we found out that gravity actually is in waves. We confirmed that scientifically.
Yep. It exists and reacts in waves, and that element 115 does exist, and they put it on the periodic table, and they named it, like theoretically they had it named unpentium previously.
Yeah, that's
'cause
what it was.
They just theoretically named these things that could exist.
I remember
Isn't
that.
that the one
I
from
remember,
Avatar?
yeah, it makes you blue. I actually remember that from high school when looking at the periodic table and trying to like figure out what the hell all that meant.
Right. So they put it on the periodic
Unobtainium.
table, which you know, they synthesized it in a lab for about 200 microseconds.
So let's talk about that. That
Or
means
milliseconds.
they induced an environment that combined enough protons, neutrons, and electrons that made the element 115.
Yeah.
Element 115, an element is based upon the number of protons. So that correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't change.
Right.
So that means element 115 has 115 protons.
True.
The number of neutrons and the number of electrons can change up or down. Those are called isotopes.
Yeah, and they took americium and they threw a bunch of calcium at it, thinking, oh, if this sticks, we're going to create unpentium, or what it's now called is moscovium.
Which was retroly renamed.
Yes, you have right.
Yeah, which is like, whoa. Let's pull this thread.
Right. You have to have it created before you get naming rights.
Yep.
And so
Even if it's for a millisecond, if you synthesized it
yeah.
in an unstable isotope, and there's, isotopes exist all the time. There's like, whatever, a dozen or so different isotopes of oxygen.
Right.
It's just how atoms are.
Right. They change.
Some are stable.
Yeah.
Some are more stable than others.
Yeah. And so they created this, and it stayed together for 200 milliseconds or so. And so they said, okay, well, we're going to name it whatever after the guy who did it at, I think it was Caltech, where they first,
Air quote first.
yeah, the
Air
first,
quote first.
where they created this ununpentium, and then we're going to name it from its holding name ununpentium into the guy's name. But then when they got behind closed doors to have the discussion about
But there
who
was another
actually
lab.
gets to
It was
name
it wasn't it a Swedish or Norwegian lab that then also synthesized it. Then I thought that was the argument with the Russians. They're like, hey, no, we got documentation of synthesizing this like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So there's a little gap there. But either way,
yeah, it came out that we're going to name this
it was
Moscovium.
it was released in the news like, oh yeah, they synthesized it, and then X amount of time later,
could
less
have
than
been
a year.
That could have been the cover story.
Yeah, it came out. It's like, oh, by the way, we're gonna name it Moscovium.
Sounds like
no
a cover
reason.
story.
No reason.
Yeah.
We're just gonna name it Moscovium. No reason.
Yeah.
Don't ask us.
Yeah, yeah. And our cover story is going to be that, oh yeah, we actually invented this stuff 15 years ago and just didn't tell anybody.
They had to have so much proof for that. That's what makes me like go, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. So here's the thing that probably really happened, is that the Russians also have craft because they have a large land mass.
If we make the assumption that the U.S. has, craft that are not made from our current known technologies, it's
Alien
if we're making that
spacecraft.
assumption,
Yeah.
we can also then make the next assumption that someone, especially like Russia, like you just said, that has such like vast land,
Like a third of the landmass of the planet.
probably has some craft that we don't know what the fuck they are.
Yeah. And, the Moscovium is what they use to fly around in the gravitational field to propel themselves so that they can go super light speed, beyond light speed, because when you start to manipulate the field energy connected with gravity, you're talking about slipping through matter, not having to deal with interacting with the matter. And so you can easily exceed the speed of light in that situation. So if they had this stuff that they're working with their extraterrestrial spacecraft longer than the United States did, or longer than the United States wanted to claim ownership of the ununpentium, then they're going to get naming rights, having played with it first.
But they have to have so much proof to do so,
Yeah,
which interests the hell out of me.
right. Yeah. And so behind closed doors, somebody's going to have to say,
Oh,
yeah,
I
we
think
had an alien spacecraft
in the article
before
I read
you did.
too, they even said it was a behind closed doors conversation of the renaming,
Right.
because there was enough evidence to prove somebody else could rename it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just interesting that Bob Lazar's story talked about element 115 a couple of decades before they even acknowledged that 115 existed. So he was talking about it. He was talking about its influence on gravity, which is theoretically true. And pnictogens, by a class, interact with
What?
pnictogen.
What's that?
Pnictogens is a class of elements. And right now, Moscovium's the highest proton count of all the pnictogens, but it's phosphorus, arsenic,
Like noble
nitrogen.
gases is a class. Pnictogens is a different class.
Yes.
Okay.
So nitrogen, arsenic, phosphorus, a couple of the I can't remember the other two in between, but you've got then Moscovium. Well, they all interact with the quantum field. They all interact like phosphorus. You want to entangle something, like we have a lot of phosphorus in our brains, which is one of the reasons that it is feasible that things in our brains could become entangled from a consciousness perspective to non-local connections into other spaces thanks to the quantum field, etc. The phosphorus atom is one of those atoms that is a key and keyhole into non-local quantum energy. And such is Moscovium, that it's a key and keyhole into controlling gravitational fields. And so you've got this amazing documentary that Bob Lazar talks about that's streaming online. I'm still aghast that the world is not just freaking out that you got to believe this guy. He hasn't changed his story in 30 years, one whit. And he's talking about science back then that is now just proven today, a couple of decades before it was proven. And he hasn't changed his story. And so it's like you almost have to, it's almost an all in or fold option of believing him or not, that he is a diehard scientist that just freaked out a little bit and had to go public because he thought he was going to get a bullet in his head because his, security detail was freaking out about his wife having an affair, which he didn't even know about at the time. So they were holding him at the front gate saying you can't come in because they were thinking his private life was a mess, which is a security risk.
Yeah, which is a standard. When you have a certain level of clearance, family life is evaluated.
Right.
Yeah.
SOP. It's standard operating procedure.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's like, you put the unacknowledged Stephen Greer, and then you followed up with Bob Lazar, which is pretty damning evidence. And then this Joe Rogan thing where he talks to the F-18 pilot. Who
I can't wait to
actually
watch
saw-
that.
I can't
Yeah,
wait
it's
to
gonna be
watch it
exciting.
either.
Yeah.
And because Rogan's tweet about it was, we're not alone.
So
It's
I
like,
read a really kind of weird article a couple weeks ago that said that those initial videos were never supposed to be released.
right. And the Navy, did you hear last week? The Navy just confirmed that those are
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
That those aren't like,
Yeah.
that's the real deal.
Yeah. So I think it's important to define when we say the Navy says they're real, it means they acknowledge there are flying craft with technologies we don't understand operated by entities we don't know operating.
Yeah.
That's what it has been acknowledged.
That's fucking crazy. And that people aren't freaking out about that. And it's not already changing society and religion and the
Well,
demand.
even in the Bob Lazar story, someone goes, hey, how does this stuff not get leaked out? And one of the security folks, I can't remember, I'm going to misquote, but it's in the documentary. I can't say it any other way now. But he goes, it's the easiest secret to keep. No, if it goes out in the news, no one wants to acknowledge it.
They should have not had any evidence. Then they could have been as pervasive as religion.
That's a conversation for a different day. Unless we're gonna jump into that.
You know what this
You know how
really...
many people believe that there's a fucking talking snake and some bitch that ate an apple and then this dude in a toga that like yay or nays you into fucking oblivion?
I take religion like I take feelings. There's nothing inherently wrong with listening to the message.
No,
it's
just
what you do
retarded.
with it.
Yeah.
It's what you do with it.
Yeah. This totally ruins science fiction for me, though.
What, aliens or?
No, yeah, like the alien technology that, now that we understand.
Well, we're gonna have to really up our sci-fi movies these days.
Yeah, because when you're talking about, and the other thing is, and let's tie it back into politics. What if you have a candidate who then says, "I'm gonna take Air Force One and land it at Area 51"?
Well, Hillary Clinton actually said she was gonna divulge a lot of UFO stuff
Hillary Clinton,
when she was running.
full of shit.
Of course
I
she
know,
was.
I know,
She
I
has
know.
no OPSEC.
Right.
Hey, what's yeah, no shit.
Definitively.
Yeah, God.
She was going to divulge everything.
Right.
Hey, what's the guy's name that was her like
But here's the thing:
the
if
Weasley guy that ran with her? He was
Bill
in-
Clinton.
No, like a little less Weasley. What's his name? He was on. He's
Biden?
been on Ancient Aliens.
oh, I don't know. I didn't watch that.
He was
shit.
he was her second in charge.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was literally her second in charge. He was on there talking about aliens.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh man.
which like that threw me off when I saw that. I was like, what the shit?
Well, here's the thing, though. There's one side of the coin that says, okay, let's not freak everybody out and throw religion in the garbage and all this other stuff that could happen societally and panic people into shooting.
Yeah, then they
their
might start
neighbors.
acting irrationally.
Right, exactly. So you don't want to introduce that change into the world without some type of you don't want to throw them into the cold pool. But the other side of
Sometimes
that,
you do though.
the other side of that though is there are real energy implications where our
Right?
okay, and I understand the danger that our entire economy is based on energy. Our entire economy is supported by
Can we
energy.
take salt for example?
Salt?
The parable of salt.
No, go ahead.
So a couple hundred years ago, economies ran on salt because
Yeah.
salt was how you cured all food. So to do any endeavor, you needed salt. You
Yes.
needed salt to cure food, because
Yes.
it would last days, weeks, months, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't have salt, you couldn't do anything without foraging along the way, right?
And the Roman armies were paid in salt. That's where
Yeah.
the whole phrase "worth his salt" comes from.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge thing.
So I think eventually oil will be the new salt.
You think
We'll have
so?
something else. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think that I think the 0 point energy, which we can do, but which
Can you sum it up in a nutshell for those who aren't
Okay,
giant
so
nerds?
the big thing about the quantum field is that there's enough.
What is the quantum field?
Okay, the quantum field is, well, actually there are multiple fields, but let's just talk about all the fields together in one quantum field,
One happy family
Bucket.
of fields.
using air quotes. So the quantum field is the energy field of potential wave energy that helps create the entirety of our classical Newtonian physics existence. And our Newtonian physics, the little atoms and all the power that we have in the atoms, stuff like that, comes together when the potentials within the quantum field coincide in various ways that then create the atoms and the neutrons and the protons and the electrons and the interactions, etc. But there's a ton of energy in this field that doesn't come to fruition.
So, for example, though, just for people listening, the census of the Big Bang is that energy turned into matter. So, what you're saying isn't woo woo.
No.
We know by the Hadron Collider
Yeah.
that energy can actually turn into matter and
Yes.
vice versa. So
Yes.
what you're saying is not woo woo.
No. This is hard science.
It is mainstream science right now.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And so
I just want to establish that.
in the vacuum, in the space where there isn't Newtonian physics like matter, like protons, neutrons, and electrons interacting, there's the potential for those to exist. But in that potential is a huge amount of energy. And they estimate that the amount of energy that exists in the quantum vacuum, or 0 point, where it actually hasn't come into our existence in Newtonian physics, one coffee cup of that has enough power to boil away the world's oceans. Okay, so that's how much energy that we're talking about that hasn't really come to fruition into Newtonian physics, into the classic physics model that underlies the creation
Maybe
of the
that's
entire universe.
The missing unification part.
Right. And so
I mean, time's not real, but
the reality is there's a key and a keyhole mechanism where you can sap some of that energy out of the 0 point existence into Newtonian physics. You create a key and a keyhole.
so the space
model.
between the space.
It's the space between the spaces, yes, and it's interacting with certain elements, such as pnictogens, that then kind of play in
Yeah.
both worlds. They exist in
Things
this classical,
vibrating at a certain frequency.
yes, but then interact with quantum energies. But then that can act as a tunnel to take quantum energies out of the quantum field into Newtonian physics space, into classical physics space. And so if you build the right mousetrap, basically you can take the energy that is all around us, that is creating all of our existence, is helping to create our consciousness, it's helping to create our homes and our world and the earth and the universe and all that stuff. The energy beneath that, you can sap some of that through the classical model, through into our classical existence. Take some of that energy and create it out of nowhere, out of nothing. Like have a box with the right mechanisms in it that creates power that you plug shit into that isn't plugged into the wall anywhere.
And we know, again, I got to point this out for like mainstream science, based off 20 years of colliding atoms in the what was before the Hadron Collider, LC or anyways.
Yeah.
we know that particles do pop in and out of existence. So
Oh,
again,
totally.
this isn't woo woo. This is connecting dots of things we already know and saying, hey, okay, well, if matter can just kind of pop into existence with the right environment and catalyst, why can't we capitalize on that for energy purposes?
Yeah, and what it is, right? You've got the wave energy in multiple fields, multiple non-local fields that are these quantum energies. And the waves, when they come together and collide in a certain fashion, that creates matter, right? That creates a particle that then can blink in and out of existence based on what the waves are doing and where they are and the potential for it to be coalescing here versus there. And that's what, the calculation of where an electron is or where a photon is.
The
or that's
probability wave function, which,
right.
which I have some issues with, but anyways.
Yeah, and it's imperfect science. We don't have it not locked down yet. But basically, the whole universe is created by that existence of intersecting waves of multiple non-local fields, etc. Now,
in the words of Tesla, sorry, I feel like I'm jumping in here. In the words of Tesla, if you understand vibrations, you understand the universe.
Yes, exactly. And so at the point that you have a piece of matter that is halfway between classical physics and quantum mechanics, you create an opportunity for a tunnel to suck some energy through. So if you configure those things in a certain way, you can have limitless free energy as far as we're concerned in our Newtonian physics world of how much energy we need to drive a car or fly a plane or light this room or do this podcast with the internet and all those switches and yada yada yada. You have enough energy in a freaking coffee cup to be able to do all of that stuff, right? So if you configure that. Well, so anyway, we have the alien technology. It is supposed that the aliens have the ability to understand this science and pull the energy out of nowhere, because that's basically how one of their reactors works that helps power their spacecraft. They don't plug the spacecraft in and have to recharge it with batteries. They have a reactor that simply you put a load on it, a force on it, and it starts to put out energy in the exact amount of energy that you need, an exact amount of force that you've applied to the reactor. It pushes back in the exact proportion that you're trying to, like Bob Lazar was talking about, touching it. So that is 0 point energy. So whether or not we can create it, which I believe we can, pretty sure we can.
I mean, if it exists, it's been created, which means we'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So we have it. Even if the aliens have created it, we have it. And I'm pretty sure we can, to a limited degree, create some 0 point power supplies. I've kind of played with some just thought experiments in my own head. And Declan, my son, and I have had some discussions about it and stuff like that. And there are some people who seemingly have created perpetual motion machines, for lack of a better word, that you put just a little bit of power into it and it creates a lot more power than you put into it. And then those people have kind of disappeared. And there was this guy who created
You're talking about a positive feedback loop.
Right.
Which at that point, it's not even, I don't like the term perpetual.
Right. Perpetual motion machine is a little sketchy.
It's a little derivative, if you will. I know Ben loved that. It is a little derivative.
It is.
Because it's so much more complex than that.
It is very much more complex than that. But there's a point.
Theory.
Yeah, but there's a point where you're picking the energy out of the quantum field, right? Or out of the multiple non-local fields. But at that point, you have all the unlimited energy that you need for our purposes here on the planet. I mean, it's not truly unlimited energy. It's not infinite energy, but it is the energy that creates the entire universe. So you could arguably say the whole field and mass is infinite, but we're only picking a little piece of it off. If we went to that energy model, we would need 0 fossil fuels. Period. It would help us reverse global climate change, which is, of course, a farce.
I mean,
it doesn't exist naturally.
Well, it's like, I feel like the Randall Carlson meme's coming out. It's like, climate is always changing. Okay, let's establish that. Okay, is the argument in the words you use that human activity induces the most climate change?
Easy, Reagan.
No, but we do definitely have an impact on the climate.
No, but here's the thing, right? Even if we do have just minor impact on the climate to accelerate its heating.
Yeah, already naturally occurring process.
Which
doesn't make it right.
Tapping into the energy of the non-local fields would give us enough energy to fucking reverse it, regardless of how much we're influencing it in the first place. Well, we could literally control the climate of this planet. Oh yeah, you know what? You want to set it to 72 on Thursday? Great. Everybody gets 72 globally.
Well, Randall Carlson quotes the Bible, actually, which I love, because he doesn't dismiss it as just garbage. He says, no, these are human stories. They came from something. And there's a line he pulls up, and he says, I think it's actually, no, it is from Genesis. He says something. You know, the goal of humanity is to subdue the Earth,
Yes.
and I like that.
Yeah. And it has been.
Yeah, but we're the only species that we know of on Earth that is capable of manipulating our climate. But yet we're arguing about like politicians and like who's wearing what and who's peeing in what bathroom.
Yeah.
Like, no,
But-
there's bigger shit.
No, there is bigger shit. But the thing
Who's
is,
peeing in
if
what-
you become president and you take Air Force One and you landed at Area 51 and then you take the drive to S4 and you grab that technology and you say, we're going to start using 0 point energy at this point. We don't have any more problems with asteroids slamming into us because we can fucking destroy
well,
them
this goes back to a theory I
with
have.
a laser.
This goes back to a theory I have is that our species as a whole, I mean, we're not proactive. It takes, just like individuals, it takes a certain amount of pain, a threshold of pain to do something about it.
Right.
You know, until we have the actual tangible imminent threat, stuff like that's not going to come up. But until we do, I guarantee you'll see the whole world be like, hey guys, we're brother, sister, we'll figure this out. It's like, where were you fucking 10 minutes ago fucking pissing in my bathroom? Like let's get on the bandwagon now. Let's go. And that's a really bad fucking parable there, but
No, but you're right.
like there's
Right.
people like fighting for food and we're arguing over like urinals in Oregon. It's like, God, use the $150 million that's costing to do to go feed some people in Africa. Like,
So no, what did you mentioned that at lunch? You said people in Oregon are pulling their urinals. Their
yeah, I just read some article that there's a suit at some, I don't know if it's a federal building or state building, but there's some building where there was a suit for them to remove all urinals because it was, I don't know, sexist or something.
Good.
And the article too, it was
They can repurpose them.
it was
for
kind of
some
scary
fucking
too because it was like
artificial
it was like
intelligence.
it was like to the effect of
urinals are toxic masculinity.
well, it was to the like the tone of the reporter was to the effect of, you know, just an old artifact for when we thought male and female were different entities. It's like, we got asteroids coming, we got like cancer. Like, what are you arguing about this shit? Go fucking look over here, dude.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't have their own blights or their own like trials or
It
tribulations.
must
but
be nice when the worst thing you have to worry about is a fucking urinal.
Right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality is there are more things that we need to worry about besides the fucking urinals.
No, not for them. They're good.
If your worst year is worrying about a urinal,
Then shut
Go-
the fuck
go-
up about everything
go
else.
live where I lived in
Yeah.
Africa for
Yeah.
a year and come back and talk to me.
Don't ever say anything bad about anything else in the world other than urinals
Yeah.
or less.
When you go
Like-
live in a place where they like, I'm gonna get a little personal here. When they strap 11-year-old girls with suicide vests with ceramic barbarians, and I'm not even kidding you, and go clack them off in markets, like that's where I have a hard time swallowing the argument about urinals. It's like we as a species we have to start speaking in terms of we.
Yeah.
Like, we have bigger issues.
Yeah, we do.
Forget your little urinal stuff. Like, go pee in the woods for all I care. Like, there's innocent lives at issue here.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the survival of the species, period. Because here's the
Yeah.
other thing, is that we are influencing with overfishing, at least, and with resource wasting and with pollution of our rivers and streams and waterways. We are killing the wildlife that supports our existence on this planet en masse.
And we are nature.
And
people
we are-
forget
yeah.
that we are nature.
We are nature. And by the way, you know, I had a discussion with the mushroom guy at the last Science and Non-Duality conference that I went and spoke at.
He sounds like a
Paul
fun guy.
Stamets?
Paul Stamets. Yeah, I've had a discussion with
You
Paul
ruined
Stamets.
my joke, Ben.
Sorry.
No, Ben.
So he said this. He said, you know, the bees are dying, and he's an amazing mycologist, by the way. But he also designed a mushroom additive to honey water to feed honeybees food so that they could fly around, but that cured them of this virus that was limiting their pollination from 9 days down to 4 or something like that.
Yeah, it
which
was
is-
like bad bee wing disease or something.
yeah, it basically made the wings smaller.
Yeah, yeah.
He figured out a way to add the mushrooms to the water for the feeders, but then all the wasps were coming and eating the food and chasing off the bees. So then he designed a top for the water feeding device that only honeybees would be able to traverse, because wasps won't go inside and crawl around, a maze. And so he created a maze for the honeybees to crawl in and go get the food, so that only the honeybees would be fed from this large water device with the mushroom food inside of it. And if you want to go find out more about that, search for Paul Stamets, Stamets, and bees, and I'm sure you'll find it. And so he's single-handedly helping to save the honeybee population, because
he's someone that needs to be added to the unsung heroes of the world.
Yes, and he said to me at a bar, after the last bee dies, 2 years later, the last human dies.
Yeah, and that's not an opinion. That's
a fact.
Scientific consensus.
Yeah, that is a projection that is
Benjamin
based in...
Franklin, I think, said something to that effect too. Actually.
Yeah.
I think he said, "What kind of bees make milk?" Boobies.
I believe Benjamin Franklin said, God loves us and wants to be happy because he gave us beer.
He wants to be happy.
But I mean, seriously, we're going to kill ourselves as a species. I mean, it could be the end of human civilization that we are witnessing within the next 300 or 400 years.
I think everything's a pendulum.
It could also be a bunch of buzzwords.
Like bees. Back to NPR radio. If you're listening, turn your heater up.
So, wouldn't it be awesome if we had 0 point energy to be able to offset all of the stuff that we're trying to create energy and to create an economy and yada yada yada? Wouldn't it be amazing if we were all handed a box when we got our adulthood that then said, "Here's all the energy that you need for your fucking property. You don't have to plug into anything. Go grow some food."
The Ron Swanson of the world would love that.
Yeah,
me included.
I mean, communications technology will help you learn how to grow a better garden and use invasive or non-carcinogenic pesticides or whatever it is. I mean, there's all kinds of natural stuff that I spray in my garden.
Or just not waste your yard on grass.
Right, yeah. And so wouldn't it be amazing if we were all handed energy by the time we reached adulthood and got our house and whatever it was that we wanted to go raise a family, or maybe, who knows whether the society is even going to be continuing in that whole model. Wouldn't it be amazing if we didn't have to go out and make money to buy gas to get around to make money?
I'm going to get a little woo-woo here.
Go nuts.
I think, in a way, if you exist, you are handed energy. The problem is, because somebody didn't tell you, hey, by the way, you're powerful beyond belief, you'll never be able to understand the energy you have. So be careful with it. Because we don't have this book when we're born or exist that says, hey, by the way, you saying hello to someone could save their life, or, have this butterfly effect impact that could be significantly impactful. I think we all are handed an energy. To exist, we have energy that we don't understand, which is amazing. So, again, to get a little woo-woo, I think we all are handed some kind of energy in existence that it's up to us to use how we'd like.
Yeah, that fits the model. I mean, consciousness is a non-local field, and we come out of consciousness into physical existence, right? And then we become this body, this, human, whatever it is, the form. We take in Newtonian classical physics, and then we relinquish it at the end, but our consciousness energy doesn't cease, because that's a non-local field.
But I mean, we know from physics that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but transferred.
That's right.
Full circle.
Boom.
We're solving it.
Yeah.
That's the issue that I have with it.
What's that?
With 0 point energy and harnessing it from non-local fields.
Is it we're going to be harvesting souls to run our Netflix?
I mean, you guys have felt what I've felt.
Yeah, that's true.
To stay woo-woo
when you
it.
farted on the couch? You turn fart.
That was Newtonian. Boyle's
no,
law.
that was a new tone.
Boyle's law, I believe. But legitimately, you guys were all there.
Yeah.
All right, so if that's part of the quantum realm, primordial ohm, infinite conscious, whatever, so the life source,
I've thought about this,
God,
by the way. I
any of
have
that?
a rebuttal already.
then we all agree that life is an act of consumption.
Yeah.
We all agree that it requires a level of energy to maintain.
Yeah.
So if we don't consume think of it like an egg. An egg comes with enough resources until that thing hatches.
Okay.
What if that egg was just sucking out resources out of the air around it? Or, if every egg that ever got laid was using everything around it, things around it would start to die with piles of eggs.
Okay.
So why would we harvest it from a field that we all agree is infinitely better, even to the point where religious people praise it and tout it based on a fundamental vacuum of understanding in its presence?
Okay, so my answer to that question is that there's only one non-local field that is connected with consciousness, right? It's all intertwined, but there's a number of energy points that you can pull from that don't necessarily connect with consciousness. So it's not like, my joke was, we're harvesting souls to run our Netflix. I don't think that we would actually be harvesting conscious energy to run, our cars or our whatever. Plus the fact that the power level is so vast and grand that we couldn't, it's like, yeah, would I cut a finger off if I could live a happy life? Sure.
My thing is this.
We don't know where it's coming from.
Well, no, we don't know where it's coming from, but we do know it's available.
Yeah, so I've thought about this too much. Let's make the assumption it is consciousness, right? Wouldn't consciousness want more intellectual, well-designed forms of consciousness to use itself to perpetuate itself in a better way?
Unless it was designed to be a finite epoch experiment.
No. That does not negate my point.
No.
No.
No, I'm agreeing.
Oh, okay.
That brings up the potential for this being a simulation, though.
It's almost
I don't-
it's almost definitively a simulation to some degree.
How do you
of some
define
sort.
simulation, though? Let's start there.
Boom. That's why.
Lord.
I know I go to definitions, but the thing is, if we don't have
It's
Words.
definitively an undefinable simulation.
words,
Yeah.
words. Can we just talk about words real quick?
Semantics.
I am a pile of atoms manipulating my larynx and other muscles to vibrate
Sphincter.
the air to your little ear holes that mean something that we both agree upon.
I have big ear holes.
So when my vibrations go in your ear holes. Okay, so simulation.
Yeah.
What do you guys mean by that? I'm playing devil's advocate.
Okay, so the colloquial or common belief of the potential of this simulation thing is that our whole existence is being played out in a computer somewhere doing a lot of math connected with creating this whole world in our existence, and we are simply experiencing the simulation of our existence within that larger system.
See,
Is the most popular version, but there's a lot of really smart folks who make a compelling argument that we could be in a simulation.
I get the argument for the simulation. I really do. I get why it aligns with our human understanding of simulations and how it would work. But I don't think it's a simulation. I think it aligns with our most complex version of a simulation.
Yeah.
So we use the words we know to be like, it's a
Our
simulation.
definition of a simulation.
I think that's
right.
honestly, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't
for
think it's a simulation. I think that our most complex definition of a simulation fits our most complex definition of existence.
sure. Yes.
I don't think it's a simulation. I don't think there's some little nerds being like, oh, look at these little humans that think they're humans,
Unless
but they're just
everybody-
electrons bouncing around.
Right.
But
And
whatever.
unless everybody operationally agrees to define a simulation as a facet of something greater that exists in agreed upon parameters where it's narrower than what is. And in that case, the quantum mechanics would insinuate that like we're basically in a terrarium, which is a terrarium a simulation of life to a lizard? Kinda.
Kinda.
But how do you define simulation? Because it's still alive.
Yeah, it's still life.
And it's still eating fucking crickets. And it's still getting heated and
I agree with the argument of a simulation in
that's term.
the facets that
Yeah.
it's like, hey, everything could be boiled down to zeros and ones. You know, data is passed through DNA in a way that we don't really understand, and like, you know, there's actually a 2D world, and we think 3D, and time isn't real.
There's
and-
also a no D world.
yeah. I mean, I get it,
Yeah.
but I think we're just using just like again, if you were to fly a jet, a Raptor F-22 across big cities in 1650, what words would they use to describe that? I'd love to hear that.
Right.
Because that would really articulate the fact that we can only describe things based upon our current understanding.
Our most advanced level of understanding.
Yeah.
And then it's moot at that point.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I make the point, like, comedy from 80 years ago is stupid. It's so stupid.
Yeah, 'cause
like, it's
people are
stupid.
stupid.
It's not even funny. But you know what I mean? It's because it has to do with our current understanding of things.
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Which is why my favorite Hulu show was Harlots until I realized they don't show enough tits.
And for the 1% listening, they're like, no, economy is great. Fuck off. It's not.
Economy's stupid because everybody that's involved in it is stupid. Make fire yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's where I was going, but okay.
Well,
Tomato, potato.
It's moot.
I do believe that this economy needs to be replaced. This energy economy needs to be replaced
With a Thunderdome.
with the Thunderdome. No, but seriously, I mean, here's the thing: we're depleting our fossil fuels. Not that we need to save them for any reason, but it's coming down to the fact that we're killing the planet. Whether or not you believe that we're the primary
Right.
driver of that, we're certainly accelerating
We're
it.
propagating it for sure.
Yeah, certainly, and we're exacerbating the problem, and we're doing so in a fashion that is too quick for our survival to be likely where we're headed, because we're killing off the things that support our ecosystem. And
Especially those of us that can see it
yeah,
and foresee it.
yeah, and this isn't woo-woo science or crazy science or doom and gloom. I mean, this has happened multiple times throughout the history of the planet where things have, for various reasons, the environment has gotten out of balance on whatever it is, and then everything fucking died.
So that warrants a transition over to hopefully Randall Carlson's episode that we're going to have, where it's like,
Yes.
so what are we going to do? Are we going to sit around here and argue about who gets to spend the most monies? And who gets to decide where we spend monies and who gets monies and how many dead dinosaurs we're going to fucking light on fire to drive Hummers? Or are we going to decide as a collective group, how are we going to figure out solutions to these very, very, very real, very, very, very incipient issues that are going to pretty much challenge the existence of our entire race?
Yeah, because if we
Which is why economy's stupid.
It is.
Especially when we're all going to be the richest person on the cinder if we don't shut the fuck up and pull our heads out of our ass.
And it's all based on imagination. I mean, it's all based on, like even gold, right? Gold is simply what you can get somebody else to relinquish when you hand it to someone, right? It's all imagination. It's all a trading of ideas. It's all a trading of imagined value. And the dollars that we print and spend and trade between countries, it's all imagined value. It's all getting somebody to work for a false idea. And that's really what it is. It's productivity. It's productivity.
A simulated value.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's all the coercion of getting a human being to do work for your benefit or for the benefit of the survival of yourself or the species. And so far, we're doing work based on the survival or the promotion of self, the false self in the mind, the self that we shouldn't necessarily be serving, when the self should be rewritten into the self of the human race, the self of humanity. I'm team human. I'm not team Sean. I mean, I have to be team Sean thanks to this economy. I have to make enough money to support this house and to support my family, to make sure that there's enough food for my kid, that he can have all the stuff that he needs to do to go to school, etc. But there's a better way to get that done. And the better way to get that done is to raise consciousness, explain to everybody how the big machine works, take everybody off of this bullshit trading economy model that's right now focused on energy trade. And the only resistance to changing this economy are the folks that control it and have beaten the system and live on the backs of others based on the bullshit that they've put together, based on the bullshit value system and the bullshit beliefs that they've put together in the human race, that we all have to work to get money, to get energy, to get more money, to get food, to get money, to get entertainment, to get money, to get happiness, to get money, to get... Fuck that.
Yeah.
That's the old fucking model that needs to be abandoned. And one of the first things that we can do, I think, is land fucking Air Force One at Area 51 and declassify the fucking 0-point energy work that's being done and start handing it out when people reach adulthood to say, you get to plug your fucking house into this box that doesn't get plugged into anything else. You get all the energy you need, and now we can focus on the things that can actually help the happiness of the planet, the survivability of the planet, the health of the ecosystem. We don't have to be killing and exacerbating and accelerating the problems that we have with this planet that could be in a natural state of heating, but at the same time, we're fucking accelerating it. So, I don't know. That's just my little soapbox as Doug comes back in from peeing.
So you stop treating life like the NFL and start treating it like a closed system that is probably going to do a lot better under John Nash's theory than...
Well, I mean, consciousness is a
Venture
closed loop
capitalism.
system anyways.
Yeah, and by the way,
With external inputs, but...
for those dumb shits who are listening who think they're smarter than everybody else, who try to control the fact that fucking aliens are talking to only them and not everybody else. One of the best things that has happened to technology is when it gets open sourced, and a lot of fucking people who they haven't identified as smart get their hands in being able to play in that space. And maybe if you open source the fucking alien technology that
or biopharmaceutical technology.
or biopharmaceutical technology, as in the last show
That's the
that we
fastest way to
did,
accelerate things.
it is.
If you're not going to open source it, then we're going to do it anyway, and you're going to start a fucking civil war.
Who's that a threat against?
Legislation? I don't know. Whoever's not letting me eat my fucking mushrooms legally. I don't give a fuck who is threatening.
Who's that a threat against?
Everyone that doesn't like
Everybody.
drugs, fuck you guys.
Because here's the thing, there's an argument of being able to, declassify 0-point energy and to start handing it out. Because you don't want terrorists and people who would want to, like the extremists, right? You don't want the extremists to try to use that energy to eradicate other people who don't think like them. The answer, though, isn't to eradicate other people's thinking, because, by the way, the thing that will keep wars from occurring and individuals into grouping off into radical subgroups is the ego itself, the ego that wants to remain special and remain that it knows everything and that it has the special knowledge and that it has the special belief or whatever. You kill off the people who don't think like you, and then all of a sudden it's just going to automatically happen again. So you're having a never-ending cycle of war based on the physiology of the human brain, the human mind, and the sickness that occurs within us as a species.
You cannot stop the human spirit.
Yeah, you cannot
Work with it or go away.
Right. And so you have to be more inclusive, and you have to
It
lead
is not
with compassion.
yours to control, maintain, or operate.
Right.
It exists as a miracle of existence, so work with it.
Because if you kill off everybody that doesn't think like you, you go and kill off the terrorists and you quit. Because, a lot of the problem that we're having with terrorism is that we're fucking creating them every time we drop a bomb on somebody's kid and then becomes radicalized because I'll admit, you kill my kid, my shade of gray is going to move more towards radicalism if you kill my kid, right? I may not get there because I'm a pretty peaceful dude, but the reality is if we stop with that whole process, we stop with that whole cycle, we could cure a lot of the world's ills. And if we start handing out energy to where it's not such a struggle to fucking survive, that gets us...
There's an amazing group. So in college, I studied religion a lot. I studied the Israeli-Palestinian conflict a lot. And one of the things that will forever be stuck with me is a group of parents on the Israeli side and the Palestinian side that have both lost their sons or daughters to the fight, and they have vowed to work together to find peace. I don't know if there's a better fruition of human spirit than that.
Yeah.
Because they are literally trying to stop the cycle.
Yeah, violence begets violence.
They both understandably have enough pain to go do something. And you could sit there and be like, I could get that, but that sucks. But they sit there And they come together and be like, hey, we both lost children to this fight. How do we find peace?
Yeah.
That's hard. That's the hardest thing to do.
It is.
You know?
Because you've lost a hardwired portion of your sense of self at that point.
Yeah, I mean, some of the individuals I ran into, especially my last deployment too. You know, I go back to the junkyard dog example of, if there's a dog that's abused his whole life, it's never loved, it's never cared for, and all it knows is pain and suffering. Yeah, it's gonna fucking bite you. What the fuck did you expect?
Yeah.
If you terrorism on a large scale is a failure of our species.
Yeah, it's our failure,
Any-
not theirs.
And any painfully self-deprecating attribute that we have as a species is, again, I wish we would just all, you know, not just Americans, but like literally our species as a whole start viewing problems as an us problem.
Fundamental attribution error.
Yeah.
This sounds like another show in the making,
Yeah,
folks.
for sure.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's end this here. So just to give you guys a clue, this is how our conversations go when we're just sitting around bullshitting. And we wanted to give you a little snapshot of that just to catch up and talk about media and talk about the shit that we've been watching and the thoughts that we have.
We really hung up on Netflix. Started talking about 0 Point Energy real quick.
Good point.
So anyway,
0 points.
if you want more of this awesome, amazing content, which I think that today's show was great in its own way. It wasn't an amazing interview that we've had, but it was, I think, fun just to sit and bullshit for a while because it's been a little bit since we hung out. If you want more of this, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. Make sure you share this with your friends because this kind of stuff just doesn't happen where you get to listen in on the conversation between some mind researcher and 2 Navy SEALs who all want to expand consciousness and improve our lives in different ways. So make sure that you share this with your folks because we don't know whether our content is going to be shared by YouTube at all.
Yeah.
Thanks to the controversial content that we talk about a lot. And so we're going to need your help in doing that. We hope things are well for you. Talk to you soon. Peace.